In the heart of ancient Rome, crowds packed the grand arenas, their cheers echoing beneath the watchful eyes of soldiers and senators. Beyond the towering gates, something stirred. Beasts seized from distant lands, dragged from the wild as living symbols of Rome's dominance. To the empire, they were trophies. To the spectators, they were entertainment. But for the creatures, there was no escape. Let's explore the extinct beasts that once roamed this vast empire. Seen only by Roman eyes, one of the most remarkable animals known to the Romans was the aurochs, the wild ancestor of domestic cattle. These massive, muscular bovines had long, curved horns and could weigh over half a ton, with some accounts describing even larger specimens. Their powerful necks and broad shoulders gave them an imposing presence, setting them apart from ordinary farm livestock. Aurochs once roamed much of Europe, including territories under Roman control. As Rome expanded into regions like present-day Germany and other northern provinces, soldiers, traders, and explorers documented these formidable beasts in letters and reports. While frontier inhabitants hunted aurochs for meat and hides, Roman elites saw them as a source of sport. Their large horns were prized trophies, often crafted into drinking vessels or displayed as symbols of hunting skill. Some Roman writers, like Julius Caesar, mentioned aurochs in their accounts of territories beyond the Alps. Caesar described them as fierce and much bigger than typical domestic cattle. These stories helped spread a sense of awe around the aurochs, making the animal a popular subject of curiosity back in Rome. People told tales of how a single auroch could gore a trained hunter if he was not skilled or cautious enough. This wild temperament enhanced the auroch's reputation among Romans who enjoyed dramatic hunts. While lions and other foreign species were more common in Roman arenas, aurochs sometimes appeared in venationes, public events featuring hunts of wild creatures. An aurochs would be released into an amphitheater, challenged by gladiators or specialized hunters called venatores. Even though these events usually showcased animals from Africa or Asia, it was not unheard of to bring in large European games, including aurochs, to impress spectators. The clash of a furious aurochs against a human fighter could be both thrilling and frightening. If an aurochs managed to land a hit, it could toss its opponent into the air with little effort. Over time, human activities took a toll on aurochs populations. Roman settlers, along with others, cleared forests for farmland, reducing habitats. Hunting pressure increased due to the value of the animal's meat and horns. Although the Romans were not the sole cause of the species' demise, their influence likely accelerated the decline. Aurochs survived in small numbers in parts of Europe long after the empire fell, but eventually, the last known individual died in Poland in the 17th century. Thus ended the story of these massive wild cattle that once roamed freely in Roman-controlled lands. When we think of lions, we usually picture African savannas, or less commonly, the Asian habitats of the endangered Asiatic lion. Yet, there was once a European population of lions. Scholars sometimes debate if these European lions were a distinct subspecies, or simply a regional population of existing lion species. Regardless, they no longer roam Europe. Ancient texts and archaeological findings confirm that Romans saw these lions in arenas, private menageries, and possibly in the wild in the eastern parts of their empire. Romans were fascinated by large predators, especially those considered symbols of strength and nobility. Lions fit this image perfectly. The empire controlled trade routes that reached deep into Africa and the eastern Mediterranean, so lions could be brought to the heart of the empire for public shows. Literary sources mention that some Roman aristocrats and emperors collected lions for entertainment or personal prestige. The Colosseum in Rome became famous for its grand events. Among these spectacles were venations, where animals fought each other or men battled wild beasts. Lions were star attractions. Crowds cheered when a lion charged a heavily armed hunter, or if multiple lions were set against a single fighter. Sometimes condemned prisoners were thrown to lions as a form of execution, which the Roman public viewed as both entertainment and punishment. Unlike smaller cats, lions offered the thrill of real danger because a single large male could kill multiple people if not contained properly. Emperors used such events to showcase their wealth and power. When an emperor staged games with dozens or even hundreds of lions, it sent a clear message of imperial reach. Rome could capture and transport beasts from distant lands at will. The Roman appetite for lions was seemingly endless. Capturing them required skilled hunters who knew how to trap or corral large predators. As lion demand rose, wild populations in Europe and nearby areas declined. Lions already faced pressures from local hunting and habitat loss. When Roman circuses needed a steady supply, the removal rate likely sped up their disappearance in southeastern Europe. Written sources suggest that lions in Europe continued to shrink in range. By the early centuries AD, reliable accounts of wild lions in Greece or Macedonia dwindled. Eventually, the presence of true European lions became a thing of the past. Although the exact date of their extinction is unknown, it likely happened within the early centuries of Roman imperial rule. This once mighty predator that roamed parts of Europe could not survive the relentless hunting and increased human expansion that came with Roman times. Besides the European lion, there was another lion that Roman people saw, the Barbary lion, also known as the Atlas lion. This population lived in North Africa, in places such as the Atlas Mountains and surrounding regions. They had a distinct look, often described as having a more extensive mane that extended over the shoulders and sometimes the belly. Barbary lions tended to be heavier than many modern African lions, although scientific measurements varied over time. Rome's empire included large parts of North Africa, like modern Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. These lands provided grain, olive oil, and other resources for Rome. With those connections came access to native wildlife, including the Barbary lion. Merchants, soldiers, and local hunters captured lions and sent them across the sea to Italian ports. Because of their size and bold appearance, Barbary lions were prime attractions in arenas. Organizers sought to present the most daunting and spectacular beasts possible, and a full-manned Barbary lion suited that desire. Emperors and wealthy citizens took pride in importing these lions for venaciones, making each event bigger and more extravagant. Sometimes lions were starved or mistreated to make them more aggressive and prone to violent behavior. This practice was cruel, but it appealed to crowds that came to see savage combat. In certain contests, dogs called lion hounds were set upon Barbary lions. Yet most of these dogs stood little chance against a large, healthy lion. These fights were orchestrated purely for shock value and to display the range of animals Rome could command. The repeated capture of Barbary lions for Roman events certainly impacted their numbers. However, these lions did survive long after the empire collapsed, unlike the European lion. Records from centuries later show that Barbary lions still roamed parts of North Africa well into the medieval period and beyond. Eventually, modern firearms and ongoing habitat reduction led to their disappearance from the wild. The last confirmed Barbary lion in the wild was likely killed in the mid-20th century. Barbary lions became legendary in both Roman and subsequent cultures. They were admired for their majestic mane and large physique. Even in modern times, the image of a mighty Atlas lion persists. While the Romans were not solely responsible for the Barbary lion's decline, their enormous appetite for exotic beasts did not help. Still, these lions outlasted the empire itself, leaving behind stories and images that remind us of Rome's global reach and hunger for a grand spectacle. While lions were the most common big cats in Roman arenas, tigers also appeared from time to time. One type that might have shown up was the Caspian tiger, which lived in areas from Turkey and the Caucasus to parts of Central Asia. Although transporting tigers over vast distances was far more challenging than shipping lions across the Mediterranean, Roman nobility craved novelty. A tiger, especially one rumored to be huge and fierce, made an unforgettable statement in front of spectators. Caspian tigers were large cats with thick striped coats. Some historical sources suggest they could rival Siberian tigers in size, reaching impressive lengths and weights. Their dense fur helped them survive cold winters in mountainous or forested regions. Unlike African big cats, tigers needed specialized conditions to thrive. This made capturing and moving them harder, raising the cost and exclusivity of having a tiger in the Roman entertainment world. Bringing a Caspian tiger to the heart of the empire involved a risky journey. Hunters and dealers might catch a tiger cub and raise it in captivity, or attempt to trap an adult using pits or strong nets. Either method was perilous. Adult tigers could kill or injure people who ventured too close. Once captured, they had to be kept in sturdy cages, fed large amounts of meat, and carefully guarded day and night. In Rome, a tiger's arrival was big news. Emperors might display a tiger in smaller private shows before unveiling it in a grand event. Sometimes the animal was pitted against other creatures, like bulls or bears. At other times, it faced specially trained fighters. However, tigers were less common in the arena than lions, leopards, or bears. Their exotic status and the high risks of transport meant few Romans ever saw a live tiger in person. Some Roman writers commented on tigers' agility, speed, and strong maternal instincts. Stories circulated about how a tigress would chase down hunters who stole her cubs, moving faster than any horse. This fierce reputation added to the tiger's appeal as a showpiece. A single glimpse of a snarling tiger could spark both excitement and dread among spectators who had never traveled far from home. The Caspian tiger survived centuries after the fall of Rome. Its decline came in modern times as human settlement expanded. Widespread hunting for pelts, destruction of habitat, and reduced prey led to its eventual extinction in the wild by the 20th century. Even though the Roman Empire's use of tigers was relatively rare, it stands as an early example of how humanity's fascination with powerful animals could help push them toward danger. One of the most famous moments in Roman history involves war elephants, the invasion of Italy by Carthaginian general Hannibal, who crossed the Alps with a team of these giant creatures. While the story often mentions African elephants, many believe that at least some were North African elephants, a smaller form of the African bush elephant that once roamed parts of the region near Carthage, modern Tunisia, and beyond. The North African elephant was likely smaller than sub-Saharan African bush elephants seen today. Adult heights might have ranged around 2 to 2.5 meters at the shoulder, making them still towering by human standards, but not as large as the biggest African savanna elephants. They lived in the region north of the Sahara, where suitable vegetation and water sources were accessible. Over time, their numbers declined due to local hunting, habitat shifts, and the demands of warfare. Long before the Romans gained North Africa, they faced elephants on the battlefield during the Punic Wars, 264 to 146 BC. Carthage used these elephants to terrify Roman troops and break up infantry formations. Soldiers unfamiliar with fighting such giant animals often panicked. The horns and screams of elephants, along with their sheer mass, created chaos. However, the Romans soon learned tactics to counter them, such as using skirmishers with javelins or creating gaps in their battle lines so elephants would run through without causing mass casualties. When Rome eventually defeated Carthage, it gained control of North African territories. This expansion gave them direct access to local elephants. Some Roman generals tried to incorporate elephants into their armies. However, elephants were difficult to maintain, requiring huge amounts of food, water, and training. They could also become frightened by loud noises or unusual scents and cause havoc among friendly troops. Romans also displayed North African elephants in victory parades and public events. These animals symbolized imperial power and the riches of distant lands. Romans might deck the elephants in colorful fabrics or metal ornaments, leading them through city streets to impress the public. Over time, the novelty of war elephants gave way to other uses, such as spectacle fights in the arena. An elephant might face off against a rhinoceros or be made to fight other beasts, stirring both wonder and shock in the crowd. The repeated capture of these elephants, combined with hunting for ivory, took a toll. Romans prized ivory for luxury goods and art, leading to increased demand. As North African lands were reorganized for Roman agriculture, elephant habitats shrank. By the later centuries of the Roman Empire, sightings of wild North African elephants became rare. Eventually, the population disappeared entirely, most likely in the early centuries AD or soon after. This decline was not reversed, and the North African elephant remains an extinct branch of the African elephant family tree. Although the Roman Empire was famous for big cats and elephants, they also imported birds for arenas, feasts, and curiosity. One such bird was the Arabian ostrich, also known as the Syrian ostrich, Struthio camelus syriacus. This bird lived in parts of the Middle East and the Arabian Peninsula. While it closely resembled the modern African ostrich, it was generally smaller and had subtle physical differences. Like other ostriches, the Arabian ostrich could not fly, but it ran at high speeds on strong legs. Standing around 2 meters tall, about 7 feet, it had a slender neck and large eyes adapted for scanning wide desert landscapes. Its feathers were used for decoration, and its eggs could be quite large, providing a unique novelty item. Roman merchants likely purchased ostrich products from provinces near the eastern parts of the empire. As Rome extended control or influence into the Near East, including parts of modern Syria, Jordan, and the Arabian deserts, Roman governors and traders encountered these swift birds. Ostrich feathers added an exotic flair to clothing or decor in Roman villas. Collectors might keep ostriches in private estates or menageries. Sometimes these large birds were sent to the heart of the empire for use in venation, though less commonly than big cats or elephants. Records suggest that ostriches did appear in some Roman spectacles. Crowds found the sight of a fast, flightless bird intriguing. There were accounts of archers pursuing ostriches on horseback, recreating desert hunts for the entertainment of city dwellers. When an ostrich tried to escape, it could show impressive speed. Yet in the confined space of an arena, that advantage might not last long. Romans also roasted ostriches for special feasts, seeing them as exotic delicacies. The large eggs were sometimes displayed or used in cooking. The Arabian ostrich survived in parts of the Middle East until relatively recent times. However, Roman-era hunting set a precedent for exploiting them. After the empire's fall, other cultures continued to hunt ostriches for feathers, meat, and eggs. Over the centuries, their habitats faced more human settlement. By the time modern firearms and vehicles arrived, the Arabian ostrich had little chance to escape mass hunting. Gradual desertification in some regions also reduced food sources. During the 20th century, the Arabian ostrich disappeared entirely from the wild. Hunters with cars and guns could easily chase down any remaining birds. Although the Roman Empire's role was only one phase in the long history of ostrich exploitation, it showed how fascination with unusual animals often led to overuse. Today, only stories and a few preserved remains remind us of these swift desert dwellers once encountered by Roman soldiers and traders. Rome's reach stretched across continents, and with that expansion came contact with extraordinary creatures. From the towering aurochs to the desert-running Arabian ostrich, Romans viewed animals through the lens of power, entertainment, and trade. In many cases, such intense interest sped up declines, pushing some species closer to extinction. While we cannot go back in time to change their fate, we can learn from history's cautionary tales. If you enjoyed discovering these extinct animals, then make sure to let us know down below. And don't forget to catch our next one, shown on screen.